at the time, the concept of a dev boot camp had just started to become a thing. There was one in Chicago, there was another one in the Bay Area, and so it was starting to become a thing. And I thought, wow, this is something I would love to do, and it was something that I wished existed when I was learning. Again, back to my career path, I didn't do a CS degree. I was already too far along in my 4-year degree to start all over with a CS program, and so I learned as much as I could in sort of taking off the shelf classes in school, but then I also was probably mostly self-taught. And so, this kind of program would have been perfect for me back in the day. And that was one of my sort of impetus for jumping into it. But yeah, in terms of advertising, I was fortunate enough to have taught at UVU and to have made enough connection that I was able to just get the word out by word of mouth and emailing old students and things and saying, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Is this something you'd be interested in? Is this something that people that would be interested in? And was able to get, I think that initial cohort had just about 20 students in it. And which is again remarkable because it was a part-time class, so people were coming after hours, they're coming after work hours, and they were paying, I think it was like less than $3,000 to
Oh,
learn how to
wow.
code in 12 weeks. And it was like, I mean, it was amazing to me that enough people were convinced this was a good idea to do that. At the time, now that's extremely cheap, but
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
at the time it was like, wow, this is a lot of money people are paying, and it was. Uh, and so, yeah, it was like getting the word out initially was easier than I thought, and it actually attracted some really fascinating individuals. I mean, our first cohort had some just rock stars in it, and I've actually thought to myself multiple times it would be so cool to go back and do like a retrospective because it's been 10 years since that first cohort, and some of these people have gone on to do amazing things. And so anyway, it's fun to look back and realize how great those initial students were. But it was really that initial momentum and the people that were coming in the door, and very quickly we had more people asking to do the class than we had space to do it. And so then it became a matter of, okay, do we add more people? Do we add more instructors? Do we grow our space? That was a constant balance at Dev Mountain, was trying to keep the right applicants, not over promise to somebody that we could get them to where they needed to be without more background or education, but also growing to the need, growing to match the market demand. Yeah, it was in terms of partners, I found a couple of really great partners early on. Cole Henry and Tyler Richards, both good friends of mine, but at the time I didn't know them at all. In fact, it was sort of somewhat of a unique circumstance in which we met, but it was sort of like we were all put in the same room together and say, like, how do we make this work? And we were able to find a working relationship that complemented our three personalities really well. We were able to, figure out how to get this initial location off the ground, and very soon a Salt Lake location. It was always a challenge at Dev Mountain to figure out how fast we could responsibly scale. And with education especially, it's a very tricky line to balance, because education is not like a transaction. It's not like you set up
Mm.
a storefront and people come and they bring money and you give them goods and they pay for the goods and the transaction's over, everybody's happy, you get a 5-star review. It's not like that. It requires investment from both sides, the teacher and the student. It requires good setup and curriculum and good space and lots of other things. And so it was very difficult to just stand up a new location. We created this another part-time course in Salt Lake City. It was way harder than we thought it would to stand up another location, even though Salt Lake City, it's a 25-minute drive from Provo. And so we learned a lot going through that first expansion, but we also, again, continued to be met with more demand than we had capacity. And so again, it was like always this question of how much more do we add? How much more locations? Arizona was asking us to come. We knew there's opportunities in other places to go. So at our height, we were in Arizona, Texas, Salt Lake City, and Provo. We had 4 different locations, and each were unique. But the challenge still remained: how do we keep high quality instructors? How do we keep high quality applicants coming through? How much further can we grow and scale? We ended up trying locations in places like Minneapolis and other places with
Mm.
varying degrees of success. But that fundamental scaling problem was always a tricky one to solve.